All right. Hello and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Natasha Ria Elskari, and I am here with the amazing Chelsea Duckworth, and we are the staff at the UMKC Women's Center. We are so very excited to be right here on the campus of UMKC in the Miller Nichols Library in our amazing podcast studio. And we are joined by our illustrious graduate assistant who is here in the studio, who might pan over to herself and say hello, but she might not. So we'll see. But we just want to say welcome to everyone that is here. This is the very first installment of our Feminist Fireside Chats. So, we want to give you a little bit of history about why we do our Feminist Fireside Chat and why we think that it's important. It is important that when women gather and have real conversations, we can really impact not only our lives, but everyone's life. And so, what is great about that is to have that intimate time where we are just sitting together and we are sharing stories about our lived experiences, about our education, and about what has brought us to the point of where we are today. So, we as a staff thought that it would be a great idea to share this with the community at large. And we would love to have everyone to just ride with us this first episode as we are trying this out in the studio. We want to see what it looks like. We want to see what it does. And so we thought that it would be most appropriate if Chelsea and I worked together to be the guinea pigs for this before we bring other people into the studio. So thank you so much to our graduate assistant who is here to help us and is learning for the very first time how to use StreamYard. Talk about a quick learn. UMKC puts out the scholars for sure. So, Chelsea, finally, we get to be here in a real studio together with great mics.
Yay.
I'm so excited about that.
Yes.
Tell us, let's talk a little bit about ourselves first so that the community can kind of get to know who we are, how we landed at the UMKC Women's Center,
Mhm.
and a little bit about our lives.
Okay, great. Well, I'm Chelsea Duckworth. I am the senior program coordinator for the Women's Center. It's kind of full circle because I frequented my Women's Center in college. I went to Augsburg University. I guess backing up further from that, I come from a big family of mostly women, lots of aunts, cousins, and lots of fun times. I went to an all-girl school for high school, loved that experience, and through volunteering in high school, it led me to pursue women's studies, women and gender studies in college. So I spent 2 years on the Minnesota campus of Augsburg University, and I spent 2 years abroad in Mexico and El Salvador studying women, gender, and social change in Latin America, which was really amazing. After that, I let's see, planned on going to grad school, but life happened, and I had my own kids instead. And I worked as a doula, postpartum, and birth work for about 8 years, running my own business doing that. And I loved supporting women in that way. Um, and then COVID happened, kind of forced me to slow down and realized the burnout that was real with running your own business. Um, and then this job kind of just fell into my lap, and I got really excited because I thought I could give back in the same way that I received so much support in college through my women's center. And I applied, and now I'm here.
And so, when did you come on board with us here at UMKC?
Let's see, it was fall of 22. So
Okay,
yeah,
so this is
time
this.
flies.
I know. Oh my gosh, you're about to celebrate your 3-year anniversary
Yeah,
in November.
yeah, that's wild.
That is wild that we've been working together for that amount of time. It's gone by
Yeah,
fast. Hasn't it gone by
it
fast?
has gone. Yeah,
Yes,
I
it
feel like I
definitely.
started yesterday.
Yes, and your kiddos were so small, and now your son is taller
Mhm.
than you.
I know, it's so weird.
Yes, that's the weirdest part, I think, about
Uh-huh.
raising boys and some girls is that when they get taller than you, it's
Mhm.
like, wow, this is a real thing. Well,
Yeah.
I am really excited to have, to work with you, one, and to share to share this conversation with you because our lives were a little similar in our paths, right?
Mhm.
I think I remember the moment that I claimed feminism as
Okay.
my particular ideology, that I knew and understood it to be my way of life. And that was a moment when I picked up and read Talking Back, Thinking Feminist, Thinking Black
Mhm.
by Bell Hooks. I was 14 years old. I was a freshman in high school, and I was a part of the UMKC Upward Bound program. I was a student in that program and later a graduate. And it was in that year that I came across these words where, first of all of this woman wrote this book when she was 19. And there were no words that were less than 10 letters. And I was like, oh, this is a read. And
Yes.
and I was looking up these words in the dictionary and they weren't there. So I had to ask around, what does this mean? What does this mean? Like, what do these words mean? It was that new in the
Mhm.
sense of like not new because women had been speaking about it, but new in the sense that like I couldn't even find it in the big library, in the big dictionary that
Yeah.
used to sit on the panel. But I knew I resonated with it so very clearly. And I was like, this is me. This is how I'm raised. So
Mhm.
I'm grateful that I was introduced through Black feminism first, or womanism, Alice Walker, The Color Purple, that came out when I was in the 4th grade, around the same time as Purple Rain. So those two things
And it's
together.
still your favorite color.
And it's still my favorite color, and it was my favorite color then.
Yeah.
And so excited
Yeah.
to finally, I think it's a full circle for me as well. So my affiliation with UMKC started in 1990 when I came as a freshman and I joined the UMKC Upper Bound program. And I graduated from the UMKC Upper Bound program, and then I knew for sure that I wanted to go to Jackson State University. I wanted to attend an HBCU because there were 2 television shows, The Cosby Show and A Different World.
Okay.
And those were life-changing experiences in television.
Mhm.
I didn't even know what an HBCU was at that time as a first-generation college student. I didn't know that there was actually a college that was predominantly African American. When I tell you I was mind blown,
Mhm.
and I started to ask my teachers because I was like, okay, they went to college.
Yeah.
And then I found out so many of them had graduated from HBCUs. So I was like, I feel like I'm a part of this secret, right? Um, and then I came back after undergraduate and a part of graduate school. I went to University of Wisconsin-Madison. I married right out of undergraduate. And then I went straight to graduate school. I was pregnant during graduate school. I had my son. I experienced postpartum, and I wanted
Mhm.
nothing more than to be home and to be around my grandmother, my mother, my sister, all of the people that really fed me. I did not want to be raising my family in this isolated, cold, and a very homogenous space. So I came back to Kansas City also because my father was ailing and he eventually passed away. I was a certified teacher, so I started to teach. And then I came back to UMKC to be the assistant director of Upper Bound. And then a few years later, I was able to be the director. So my time here was 12 years at UMKC. Then I left, went to another university, and then after that, I pursued my full-time artistry, and I
Mhm.
did that for 12 years. So that is where we are the same. I enjoyed the freedom of working for myself.
Yeah.
Um, I learned really how to save.
Mhm.
I was not the saver that I was when I was working like full time, but I learned how to save.
Yeah.
That was pretty powerful. And so I was able to be successful in that way because I put my kids through private school and college, all as an entrepreneur and a divorced mother.
Mhm.
So there was a lot of beautiful things that happened, but I wanted to, I've always wanted to be a part of the Women's Center here. In
Yeah.
fact, I had my first CD release party in 2005
Mhm.
at the Women's Center.
We still have the photo.
They invited me. They suggested
Yeah.
that I have it there, and it was so packed. People were like lined up outside. It was standing room only.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. So I think that so that's kind of interesting. And then I always said I would love to be the director of the Women's Center. That would be so cool.
Mhm.
And like you, it just kind of the opportunity came. I didn't think that the former staff would ever, transition or anything like that. It wouldn't even be an opportunity, but it was. And it was very accidental, even how I saw it. So when I saw it, I was like, hey, let me make
Mhm.
sure this is right. And something told me, like, yeah, go for
Yeah.
it. And so here I am.
Mhm.
It was 2 years in April. Yeah, 2
Yeah,
years in
that's right.
April. And so now we've been making the magic ever since. The dynamic duo
Yeah,
for sure.
that's
So,
right.
Chelsea, how would you introduce yourself in one sentence?
Oh gosh. Um, I would say, hmm, that's hard. One sentence. I
Or
am
10?
or 10. Uh, let's see. Well, I'm a mother and a woman and a woman's advocate, and I'm passionate about higher education. And that's it. You know what? I'll wrap it up with that.
Okay, I'll take that. So we're gonna ask each other questions back and forth. That's kinda how we're gonna do this. So then I guess I'll answer it.
Okay, yeah. What's your one sentence
My one
intro?
sentence, I would say I am an artist, a lover, a mother, and an agent of peace and love.
Very nice. Yeah,
I think that would be it.
that's a good summary.
I don't know if I do that every day, but
That's
but
what we aim for every
that's the
day.
aim. That's the aim. So
That's right.
you talked a lot about growing up in a family that has a lot of women.
Mhm.
Um, Tell us about your grandmothers.
Yeah. My mom's mom uh, grew up with a lot of trauma, adopted very young in her life from an orphanage by a family who kind of needed a caretaker for their biological children. Um, Suffered some physical ailments, but always kept a really positive outlook. She became a nurse because she enjoyed caring for people. Um, she ran like the Girl Scout camps for my family growing up, and yeah, it was always just that caretaker presence. Um, Funny, really witty. Um, yeah, I would spend most days after school with her in grade school, and I mean, I have so many cousins. She didn't really know all of our names, but that was
How many
fine.
cousins?
32. Which I
Yeah,
mean, there's people with more for sure, but
Chelsea, that is really hilarious because there's often a joke
uh-huh.
on the internet that talks about the way African Americans talk about their cousins
Oh yeah,
and how we're like, they're like, do people that aren't African American have cousins? Because we never hear other people talk about their cousins.
yeah.
They say, oh, they call them relatives, but
Oh,
it's like
uh-huh.
you have 31 first cousins.
Mhm.
And that's amazing. I have 21, and I thought that was a lot on one
Okay.
side. You have 31 first cousins.
Uh-huh.
So your grandmother had how many children?
8. Yeah, 8 living. Mhm. And
8
then
children.
yeah,
Okay, may I ask questions about your grandmother?
sure.
So did she know from the beginning that she was adopted?
Mhm.
So they did
Yeah,
share that with her.
yeah.
Did she ever talk about the impact that had on her?
It was really rough for her. I don't know that she talked about it that much, but just I know that my family knew the stories, but I didn't learn anything about it until, like, just a few years ago, actually. The extent of the trauma that she went through in her young years.
So she never shared with you all as her grandchildren?
No, there
Wow.
wasn't a lot of that. I mean, she worked until the very end. I mean, it was very just like, get what needs to be done done. And there wasn't a lot of just sitting around and sharing
Yeah.
past stories or anything like that.
Wow.
I think there was a lot of shame. And then it was just the generation before her that came over from Germany during the war. So, you know, I think there's a lot of generational trauma being carried also. Yeah.
So so did your grandmother ever reunite with her birth family?
No, I don't think we even know who they are.
Okay. And this is your mom's mom? Wow. So what impact did that have on your mom?
I think a lot more than we have unpacked. Yeah, you know, we have anxiety that runs in our family, probably some depression also, but definitely a lot of us deal with anxiety. I don't know. I don't think we've thoroughly. I think in just recent years we've started sharing more and opening up more about experiences. I've learned a lot more stories about their childhood than, I mean, when you have 8 kids, you're
busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So unpacking
track
that
of
and what we know now about DNA and
Mhm.
about passing on not only joy, but we can pass on trauma,
Mhm.
right? We actually it becomes a part of our DNA,
Yeah.
which is really fascinating because
Mhm.
I've often said some of my fears are not my own.
Yeah.
You know, things that I had to kind of give back. I'm like, yeah,
Mhm.
I'm not really afraid of that. Let me give that back. I don't know where that came from, right?
Yeah.
So I think, I think it does come down in your bones in that way.
Mhm.
So your grandmother became a nurse, which means that almost like this is like third generation that you know of
Yeah.
because your mother is a nurse and you were a doula.
Yeah.
What made you not go into nursing?
I don't want to stick people with needles.
That's fair.
The medical side of it. So as a doula, you do more educational support. So my family is very split into, my other grandmother was a teacher. So we're split into basically nurses, teachers, and then the computer people that I got none of that savvy.
I disagree with that.
Okay, well,
Yeah, because
maybe a hint.
you have speaking of, you cleared up our electronic files beautifully,
Oh, yeah.
and you're a Canva game.
Okay.
That I consider a part of technology.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? I think that's a part of technology. Yeah.
The beautifying of technology.
Right, but the
Okay.
front side of it, but
Yeah.
you still know how to use it, right?
Yeah.
You know how to use the technology around photography, which you're amazing. You know how to create websites. So I want to remind you that you actually do have that
I
side.
guess that's true.
Yeah, don't deny the DNA. It's there.
Yeah.
It's in there. Okay. So is your grandmother still with us?
No, they've both passed now.
Okay. And so the grandmother that we are talking about, what is her name, if you would like to share?
Yeah, Margaret Therese was her name.
All right, we want to call her name. And what a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing just a
Yes.
piece of that. I feel like I've learned more about you
Yeah.
and learning, and that's the whole point. So if you're wondering why we asked that question, even the reason that we asked that question is because we had some visitors, some women who came to the Women's Center, and they were trying to bridge the gap between the African American community and the white community within their age bracket, and they are baby boomers. All right. And so what they found is that when they were trying to sew and quilt together, nobody would talk about their lives. They weren't comfortable. The segregation, the racism, the hurt. And they were like, well, what can we do? So one of them had the idea to let's ask about our grandmothers. And that in the conversation about their grandmothers, what they discovered was the opening up and also dealing with the harshness. They found out that their one of the women's grandmothers had been wrongfully accused someone in her family of a crime, and that person knew. I mean, it was fascinating, right? And it was healing. And so that is why and we also believe in the power of speaking the names of ordinary women and who are also exceptional women in our lives. Like we stand on their shoulders, or at least I think we do.
Yeah.
I think we agree to that. What about your other grandmother, your paternal grandmother?
Yeah. So we've traced our family back to like 14 something. I mean, incredibly. My dad has
Wow.
worked very hard to track down everyone. I'm pretty much a split of English and German. But that side's been in the United States for a very long time. But she grew up rural Missouri, farm life, Great Depression. She talks about foraging for berries and things like that. And really just delighting in like the details of life and her favorite little wildflowers. And I think I get a lot of that from her. I romanticize life, I've been told, which is something I really like about myself. But she, worked the farm, killed all my dad's favorite chickens, which I could not do.
We got to talk about the chicken killing that we experienced as children. Have you ever seen it?
Yeah, I have.
Let me tell you. I wrote a poem about it.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
My dad tells this story about his favorite chicken that liked to peck at like the little silver bits on jeans and clothes and stuff. I think they called it Penny because of that. And one day they were eating dinner. He hadn't seen Penny that day. And like, I know that's trauma for him. And I just can't imagine killing like every animal as pets, right? Even like the wild ones, like you're my pet. So I can't imagine doing that part of farm life. But again, very like worked hard, was a teacher for a long time in the small town. So for all the kids in the town. And my grandpa did a lot of work for the school also. And they made a pretty big name for themselves in Kansas City cattle history, driving their cattle to the stockyards from Warrensburg, where they had their farm, and eventually they retired to Florida. So my memories are mostly going to Daytona Beach every summer.
Oh, that's a lovely memory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They lived about a block from the beach.
Oh.
We would just walk there every morning, go home for a nap, go back in the evening, and feeding the seagulls, all that lovely stuff.
Oh, that sounds beautiful.
Yeah.
So that's really fascinating. First of all, I want to share this funny little thing. I am 22% English.
Okay, great.
Wales.
Oh my gosh, we're almost related.
I just want to talk about the shock that I experienced at the high percentage that was.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew like parts for sure, but I was kind of like, whoa, on the amount. So yeah.
The DNA can be shocking.
It really can, and I think I really think, yeah. We have to talk about that one day. That'll be a great talk about ancestry. But so, Chelsea, thank you. What is that grandmother's name?
Leota.
Yeah. Yes.
One of my cousins took the name for her daughter before I could take it, but we do have a namesake in the family for her.
I am really, really excited that we have namesakes on both sides for
Yeah.
my grandmother, and I think for my grandmothers, and I think that when the cousins that did it, we were like, "Why didn't we do that?"
Yeah.
We're like, "Oh, that makes sense to carry on
Uh-huh.
the name." But I do know that when if I am ever so blessed to become a grandmother, I would like to be called Nana
Mm. Yeah.
because that is what we call my paternal grandmother. My
Okay.
maternal grandmother in true African American form was Big Mama. And we called her Big Mama because the oldest cousin said, this is how he came up with the name. So he said, "My mama has a mama?" So he's a little boy and he's like, "So if you're my mama and you have a mama,
Uh-huh.
then you must be the big mama." And so that
Aw,
is how my grandmother got the name Big Mama,
that's
was
sweet.
because it was like that was the way that the oldest grandchild, the first grandchild was like, and I imagine that must be mind-blowing, right?
Mhm.
When you realize your mother has a mother
Yes.
and to see your mother posture to her mother, right? Like that was the part I I loved. I never saw my mother cower
Mhm.
before anybody. But I saw my mother yield to her mother, right? She didn't have to cower, but she would yield. If they
Yeah.
disagreed, she may say her part, but it was not in the way that my mother usually occurred.
Mhm.
And so she was like a big mama
Yeah.
because it was like, that's the woman that can tell my mom and my aunts what to do. I was like, oh. So, and it was at my grandmother's and my grandfather's house that I first saw pictures of my mother
Mm.
as a child.
Mhm.
And I remember I was captivated.
Yeah.
I was like, I cannot stop looking that my mother was 4.
Yeah.
And this is me not being much older than 4, right? This is me at like 5, 6,
Mhm.
thinking my mother was 4.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It
It's
humanizes them in a
yes,
way
it
that
really
you
does.
hadn't thought of them before.
Yeah, it really
Mhm.
does. And I was like, "Mommy, you still, or like that." And it was in hearing those stories from my aunts and from my grandmother, and she would talk about them as children and would tell these stories about things that they had done as children. That
Mhm.
was really fascinating. So, my maternal grandmother, her name is Beauty Wilder.
Wow. What a gorgeous name.
What a gorgeous name.
Wow. That's like
Beauty,
movie star.
yes, Beauty Wilder. And it's not recorded for whatever reason, but her middle name was Queen Ivy
Okay.
for like the 4th.
Wow.
So Beauty Queen Wilder was
Wow.
was her name. And then she took on Whitmore and then she married again. My grandmother was an incredibly dark-skinned woman. Like she was blue black. She was so pretty. I loved how dark her skin was.
Mm.
And anytime I got to like see her get dressed or anything, I would just go and touch and squeeze her skin and touch her skin. She was so beautiful to me. And
Yeah.
and I knew that the world didn't think that she was beautiful because she was dark,
Mm.
but that's what I love the most.
Yeah.
And I would tell her, I was like, "Big Mama, your skin is so beautiful." Like, that's what I'm saying about like thinking about that feminism early on and that ownership of the Black body, the ownership of the Black woman's body. And and my grandfather was fair skinned. So that is really kind of the opposite for that generation.
Mhm.
Mostly dark skinned men married fair skinned women, and that was how it was. But in my house, my family was the opposite. Um, my grandfather was my grandmother's second husband. And I wrote a book about my grandmother called I Say, He
Mhm.
Say, and I wrote it in dialect because that's how my grandmother spoke, and I didn't want to lose it. My
Yeah.
mother did not allow us to speak dialect. And so I can read it and speak it some, but not to the extent in which it was spoken, right? I speak it like a different language. So, and it is a different language. It's a different form of English, and I think it's a beautiful language. And again, the reclamation of who we are as people of African descent. And having those remnants of the West African languages. So my grandmother was very serious about school. She was very smart, and she was like the first in her class. And then when she was 15, she had to drop out to care for her mother who had cancer. And so she never got to go back to school. So she was very passionate about us doing well in school. And she was a domestic, so she cleaned and cared for several white families, which my mother deeply hated. And she hated it because she started going to school in high school. When she integrated, there were girls that called my grandmother by her first name, and she had to call them like Miss Ann. And so my grandmother, my mom got into it because my mother was told that she needed to call her Miss Ann. And my mother was like, I'm not calling her Miss Ann. Like, she's a peer. So I want you to think about that dynamic. Can you imagine that feeling of kind of switching this turn of the guards and what that was like? So my grandmother left her first husband because he was abusive. And instead of going to Freaknik, like many of my friends did, I went to spend time with my grandparents during spring breaks. That was the only time I had them to myself. So during that time, I decided I wanted to capture all this history. Now, mind you, I didn't really understand how important. I knew I just was led to do it. And I've always been like led very kind of spiritually to do certain things. And so that's what I did. And it was so powerful. It was so powerful to hear the stories that my grandmother did not want to tell. And only reason she told me was because I was engaged. She said, I don't want you taking all this stuff and taking it to these white folks and telling them at your college. And I said, there are no white people at my college. She was like, it's only Black. So she was even like, what? And I was like, yeah. And so it was just this time that we had to connect. She gave me, I got to pick the quilt I wanted at that time. Other things that she gave me, I still have the quilt. It's hanging up in my altar room. And it was made of all of my aunts and uncles, their old suits and stuff. So it's from the 70s. It's polyester. If you get under it, you might catch a flame. But the color is so vibrant because it's like 100% like 1970s polyester. Yeah. So I love that. I love that about it. It doesn't get dirty. Nothing. You just you can vacuum it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean it's that kind of thing. So yeah. So then my other grandmother is my other grandmother is Juanita Maxine Harris. And then Gibson was her name. And she was my father's, mother, and she just passed away last year. She was 102. And I always refer to her as everyone's best friend. I have never been to a funeral of someone over 100 that had so many people of all ages there. It was like a party.
That's such a beautiful thing.
It really was. My grandmother was so incredibly hip. She was so hip. She was so with it. She was so in the times. She never gave that up. And so I think that's where I get my thirst for learning and for knowledge. Like, I don't ever want to be stuck in any one thing. And she was a visual artist. So she did charcoal, watercolor, acrylic, needlepoint, quilting, knitting, cooking, flowers, gardening, you name it. And I own 5 of her pieces and a quilt. and things that she made for me.
Mhm.
A quilt that she made for me as a baby that I gave to my daughter for her dolls.
Aw.
And so I've passed this quilt on to my daughter. So yeah. So I feel like I'm grateful for her legacy. I've shown her work. When I opened my art gallery, that was the main reason I wanted to have a space to show and my grandmother's work and to honor it. And when I tell you I commune with my ancestors,
Yeah.
that is a big part of my everyday, is communing with them. And so yeah, so I
That is
think
cool to see your connection through art, even in everything that you do now. You're connected to so many artists
yeah,
in different ways. What a wide range of talent. You're not
yeah,
usually good at all of those mediums.
it's crazy
Mhm.
though, right? And
Mhm.
it's because I saw my grandmother. My grandmother said to me, Nana said to me one time, she was like, "I don't think I've mastered anything."
Mm.
And I said, "But I think that is the mastery.
Yeah.
You can
When do you
do,
master it? Yeah.
yeah, you can do everything." She always was in process.
Mhm.
Always. I mean, she always was working on something. And then towards the end of her life, when her vision started to fail
Mhm.
and her hearing, she was frustrated that she couldn't do all the things that she was normally doing because that was such a big part. So it was irritating when she couldn't hear.
Yeah.
Because she was like, I don't even know what y'all are saying. And we're like, well, Nana, put in your, and then she could sometimes hear and sometimes not. And she was like, and she would curse and be like, ah, you know. But we would
Mhm.
still kind of like talk loud and do all those things with her. But, she was able to be at home.
Mhm.
And my amazing aunt took care of my grandmother, who was the last living. She buried all of her siblings and
Aw.
then her mother last. And so she's the last one left. But
Mhm.
that is my bigger side of the family. It has a lot of males. So I have a lot
Okay.
of males on my dad's side of the family, and I have a lot of women on my mom's side of the family, more women.
Yeah.
But I am most grateful. I remember I said this. I said something really dumb. I didn't think it was
Mhm.
dumb back then, but I said, I want to have the faith of my grandmothers
Okay. Mhm.
because they had unshakable
Yeah.
faith. I mean, Chelsea, when I tell you the world could be falling apart and they would
Mhm.
just pray
Yeah.
and then they would let it go and go cook dinner
Yeah.
or go plant a flower. And I'm
Right.
like, I want that.
Yeah. The ability to just release that
They released.
to the world.
When you say you want it, it gets tested.
Mhm. That's right.
My life fell apart. And I was like, oh. I would listen to my big mama sing in church. She had this really distinct voice. And back then they called it getting happy.
Mhm.
She was Baptist and old school Baptist. There was an
Mhm.
outhouse that we went to. There was a piano. There were no
Mhm.
drums. It was one room. It was Saint Rest.
Yeah.
And my grandmother opened that church and closed it. She was there all the time. My grandfather didn't go to church.
Mhm. Mhm.
My grandmother did not drive. My grandfather dropped her off on time and he
Okay.
picked her up on time. No phones.
Yeah.
And if she wasn't ready, we waited in the truck for her.
Mm.
I mean, talk about the respect.
Yeah.
And my grandfather liked to read. I later learned that he wrote poetry. Just found that out from my uncle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and also a Pisces, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I just think about like the way that she navigated her love life, how
Mhm.
she left, and she left her two older children with their father because he threatened to kill. Threatened to kill her if he took them
Wow.
and to kill them. And my aunt never knew that story until I told her, and we were at a family funeral, and I told her, and she just started to weep, and she said, "I thought she didn't love me."
Oh.
And I was like, "No, she had to." So it was a challenge kind of uncovering these things because a lot of the stories of the greatness of my grandmother was due to her escaping the abuse of her first husband, which is all of my cousins'
Yeah.
grandfather.
Yeah.
And
It's a thing to carry.
that was hard because they were not happy. Some of them were not happy with me when I wrote the book because they thought that I was trying to talk about, him. But I wasn't. I was talking about her.
Yeah, that's her story.
And whose story is it to tell? I think,
Yeah.
Yeah. But, well, this has been such a great conversation. I think we can kind of like let this be.
Okay.
You all, we have 80,000 questions. However, we don't want to rush through them. We want to have
We'll be here all night. We can talk.
But we want to have real conversation. And I think starting out the Feminist Fireside chat with talking not only about ourselves a little bit, but also our grandmothers. Our direct foundation, I never met my great-grandmother, but I knew my great-grandfather well. He also, my grandmother just lived to be 100.
Yeah.
And two, her father lived to be 101.
Wow.
And so it was so cute to see my grandmother with her father.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they were so cute together. Yes. And he
Aw.
was he was a carpenter. And
My grandfather was a carpenter
yeah,
too.
we might be related, Chelsea.
My dressers are made by him. My kid's bed was made by him.
So my great-grandfather made personalized outhouses for rich white people.
Wow.
And he would he would have them powder their bottoms and sit on black paper. And then he made custom outhouses. He also built the first post office in Rome, Georgia.
Amazing.
So I grew up watching him. My uncle owned a business called the Conference Cove, which was right on the corner of 31st and Troost. And so my great-grandfather, I remember him repairing the steps one time because there were slats between, and he says, "We can't have this because you don't want to see up the lady's dress when they go up the stairs." That was like, I remember that so well that he was like, "We can't have this.
Yeah.
The ladies need to be able to have their privacy."
Wow. He was ahead of his time.
He was ahead of his time. And so I'm going to tell you another ahead of his time story. My grandmother discovered that she was an artist. And then 3 weeks later, she was pregnant. She got pregnant with my Uncle Paul when she was 17.
Wow.
They demanded that she go before the church and apologize. And my great-grandfather said, "She'll go if he goes."
Wow. Yeah.
She doesn't need to apologize for anything. Is he apologizing?
Yeah.
And she did not have to go and apologize before the church.
Amazing.
And he did not make her go back.
Good for him.
He was that way.
Yeah.
And he was such a sweet man. So
sounds like it.
So there are men that are feminists, and that's what we want to bring into this fourth wave of feminism is more men uncovering and claiming feminism as a way of life in which they are loving and supporting and advocating for all women, not just the women in their family, not just their daughters. Because sometimes they'll be their daughters, but not their wives.
Yeah.
But for all women. And so I am Natasha Elskari.
Chelsea Duckworth.
And this is the UMKC Women's Center Feminist Fireside Chat. Please feel free to follow us on all of the social media outlets under UMKC Women's Center. We are on Instagram, we are on YouTube, and we are on Facebook. And for the students at UMKC, join us on RU Groups. We would love to have you all visit and come and check us out. And please feel free to reach out. If you like, go to our website on the UMKC website, type in Women's Center, and you can send us an email directly. Thank you so very much, everyone, for joining us. Thank you to our wonderful technical support. We appreciate you and have a wonderful rest of the day.
Okay.